Hello there, Shortcuts. Stephen here. This is a list for shortcuts. The price list will go out 9 p.m. Wednesday the 19th. As usual, Sydney time, Eastern Coast, Australia. If you would like to be on the email list to see the prices and therefore acquire some of these records, drop me an email at shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. I'm happy to announce that we just tipped over our 250th subscriber to the mailing list, which is awesome. And 250 subscribers to the YouTube channel as well, which is kind of an interesting coincidence. So there you go. This is a soul... I'm not quite sure how to describe Marilyn Monroe. Let's call it show tunes. Definitely funk, reggae, jazz. And yeah, that probably covers it. I've got a quiz question to start with. So the last record on this list is linked to the first. And the first is Al Green's stone cold 10 out of 10 all-time classic, Call Me. Now, the quiz question is, there is a singer who was on the High Records label, like Al Green, produced by Willie Mitchell, who released his debut album in 1973 and has a voice that was often confused with Al Green's. Now, I think this particular singer is a little bit grittier, a little bit more street than Al Green, but I wonder who out there might be able to guess who it is. We'll get to that at the end of the list. Now, Al Green's Call Me appears on Rolling Stone's list of the greatest albums of all time. It regularly appears at the top of the list for the greatest soul album of all time. I think it is Al Green's masterpiece. I think it's better than I'm Still in Love with You. It is the most lush, delicate, beautifully balanced record. Willie Mitchell's production is astonishing. Al Green's singing, he never oversins, but what he does is he plays with the phrasing and the words so that the melodies sneak into these little nooks and crannies. The other singer who does this is Ann Peebles, who was also on the High Records label and who is also incredible. This album is so utterly gorgeous from start to finish. And this is the Japanese first press, which is a copy I have. And it is really great. Really great. So Willie Mitchell and Al Green produced together. Now, by this point, this was Al Green's 6th album. And so they knew each other inside out. The string arrangements are just beautiful. And there are some stellar tracks. And I think my favourite is track 4, I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry. And that is because that is clearly a country song. But Al Green is so comfortable and so capable in what he can do that it doesn't matter what the genre is. It doesn't matter what. It is so smooth. It just velvets its way out of the speakers. Man, I love this album. Love, love, love. And the great thing is, the quiz question at the end is almost as good as just a smidgen short. What a double pickup they would be. And you'll find out who it is in about 10 records time. All right. I mentioned Marilyn Monroe at the beginning of my little intro. And that's because increasingly little Marilyn records have been appearing in the boxes. And so I sent a note, it was probably a couple of months ago now, saying, why are we getting Marilyn Monroe records? And I got quite a sweet reply. One, because they're good, and two, because Marilyn Monroe records were a thing in Japan. They loved them. And this, look at this. So let me just show you the cover. So that's the cover. Isn't that amazing? So it's called Remember Marilyn Monroe. So obviously this must be a posthumous. So what this does is it folds out into this really beautiful kind of gatefold. The track list, now interestingly, unlike other Marilyn Monroe records that I've had over the last while, this one does come with an English lyric list. And so you get Heatwave, Lazy, One Silver Dollar, River of No Return, Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend, of course, and Bye Bye Baby. And it's on this label that I don't really know very well called 20th Century. The vinyl's perfect, the vinyl's pristine. But part of the fascination with Marilyn was, of course, how she looked. And the Japanese always did this. So inside this particular record, you get effectively a mini biography in English. So it starts off with a description of her real name, where she was born. It's written by someone who was a friend of hers. It almost reads like an essay, but you get a picture of her as a baby. You get then as her as a teenager, and then as this progresses, you get Marilyn the showgirl. Beautiful images, all black and white, and this kind of hazy paper. Look at these. I mean, and then toward the end of this, you get some scenes from classic movies, like Some Like It Hot, but then this picture here. Look at that. Amazing. Amazing. And then finally, this. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. In pristine condition. I like the fact that we're getting Marilyn Monroe records, even though I don't really understand it. But there you go. Now, this is one that I specifically request. Every time the folks in Shibuya and Shinjuku find this, I tell them, put it in a box. This is one of my favorite funk albums of all time. This is McKinley Jackson and the Politicians. So it's the Politicians featuring McKinley Jackson. That's him. He was a trombonist and a multi-instrumentalist. And on the back here, you see the rest of the band. So predominantly instrumental. So you get Clay Clarence Robinson, an organ and trumpet. Now the organ in this record is like a rhythmic drum. It is so propulsive. Zed Slater is the drummer who's literally just holding this band together. Peanut Roderick Chandler, what a name. He's bass and sax, but the star of the show, and another amazing name, is a guy called Melvin Griffin. And he is the guitarist, but he also plays electric piano. And it is just steaming hot. I love this album. It is so cool. The number of times I've had it on, and people are like, what is that? Can I get a copy? It's hard to get a copy, but now I've got this one, and it is in fantastic condition as well. All right, another delightful surprise from running this club is how phenomenally good Trojan Records pressings were in Japan. And this is a beautiful little thing. It is called From Bam Bam to Cherry Baby. And this is a single LP compilation from Trojan. But what's important is who makes up the bulk of the songs. You get Toots and the Maytals, Eric Donaldson, Desmond Decker, and the Aces. It's just a delight from start to finish. I've had a copy of this for donkeys. Again, super hard to find, particularly. The one thing I have noticed about Trojan Records pressings in Japan, often they're not in great shape. So it's really nice to get one that is so beautiful. All right. I could spend an entire podcast just talking about my history with Tom Waits. I saw his last live show. It was in California a long time ago now. And this record, it's in the upper echelon. I'm not sure where I would place it. I really struggle with stack ranking Tom Waits records because it is so dependent on my mood. But if I'm in the mood for pre-gravel voice Tom Waits, if I'm thinking about Nighthawks at the diner, that kind of Nightfly on the piano, smoking a cigarette in the corner, this is the one I reach for. This is The Heart of Saturday Night by Tom Waits. His second album, produced by this guy from back in the day on Asylum Records called Bones Howe. And he's interesting because he's a master string arranger. So on this record, you get some beautiful string arrangements. And of course, you get that down on your luck kind of stuck in a bar in a dingy part of Chicago kind of feel. New coat of paint being beautiful, but there's the clear highlight is Diamonds on My Windshield / Looking For, along leaning into the title track, The Heart of Saturday Night. I love it. It's a great record. Japanese first press. Easily the best presses I've ever had. Do you know what? Do you know what's disappointing? I bought a couple of the Tom Waits represses from over the last 4 or 5 years. And unlike the Neil Young represses, they are really not very good. The one that I was really hanging out for and I bought was Bone Machine. And man, I've been disappointed by it. But these Japanese presses are great. Alrighty, let's talk some jazz for a minute. This is Lou Takes Off, Lou Donaldson, with Donald Byrd, Curtis Fuller, Sonny Clark, George Joyner, and the mighty Art Taylor on drums. This is Lou Donaldson when he was, I'm going to guess, 31 years of age, pretty early on. But by this point, he had been on hundreds of records playing beautiful alto sax. Just a delightful player. But the thing about this record is the band. Donald Byrd, Curtis Fuller, Sonny Clark. Sonny Clark didn't live much beyond this record. He mustn't have, because there weren't very many. I don't know if this may even be Sonny Clark's last. I'm not quite sure. It's 4 tracks. Sputnik. Sputnik is interesting. It sounds a little bit like a Cole Porter tune, but I can't quite place which one it is. But the track that I like the best is Dewey Square, which is track 2 on side 1. It's a really, really interesting piece. And this pressing, as is the way when the folks in Shibuya think that something is pretty much unplayed, I get a note. So this one's in immaculate shape. All right. Now, this next record is not Japanese pressing, but I put it on here because it sounds great and it's an absolute stonking album. This is the classic 6-man, that is all men, lineup of the Isley brothers. And this is 3+3. Now, it is a toss-up between 3+3 and Going For Your Gun as to which is the greatest Isley brothers record. The consensus is that it's this one. And I think part of the reason why that is the guitar playing. The guitar playing by Ernie Isley is stunningly good. You get big hits like That Lady, of course, Listen to Your Music, but you also get Summer Breeze. And that extended psychedelic guitar work that kind of threads its way through these songs. Again, actually, I don't want to overpromise, but I have a funny feeling that this record's in the Rolling Stones list of the 500 greatest of all time, as is Al Green's. I don't think I've ever had this on here before. If you don't know it, I mean, it's of its time, so it sounds 70s, but what a band. I've been on an Isley Brothers trip because I've been listening to their debut album, and I love cover versions, and the opening song on their debut album is this incredible cover version of Ohio by Neil Young, which segues into Machine Gun by Jimi Hendrix and the Band of Gypsies. And it's pretty special if you've never heard it. But yeah, Isley Brothers 3+3. It's a great record. This one's a lot more obscure. I'm going to take it out because I know the blare's a bit funny here. This is a very early Les McCann record, I think it's 1962. And, you know, it does what it says on the tin. Les McCann, wonderfully rambunctious piano player, not a player of subtlety like Horace Parlan or in some cases Wynton Kelly, and more to come Wynton Kelly. This is a guy who's balls out, and this does what it says in the tin. This is a gospel record, Les McCann style. Now, Mark, I hope you don't mind me mentioning, not Mark, Tim, I hope you don't mind me mentioning your name, because I know you got a copy of this from me as a gift for something you did for me, which I love, so thank you. And you came back to me and said, this record's great. And so when I saw it again, went on the list. We'll see if somebody else agrees. Okay, there's a couple of soul records that I'm just going to quickly show you, because we've seen some of these before. The best is Sam and Dave. Sam and Dave, there they are. Lovely Japanese record. Hold On, I'm Coming, Soul Man, of course. Yeah, just a great soul duet. And, you know, because of Atlantic Records, you know, 75th plus anniversary, Sam and Dave are kind of legends on Atlantic Records. But this is a record I like even more than Sam and Dave's. And I like this sleeve. Sorry, this label. Look at this. Scepter Records. Now, Scepter Records, I believe, are based out of Chicago, because this is where the Independents were from. Independents being a male, female soul vocal group. And this is the Japanese first press, out of Chicago in the early 60s. And it's super lush and dramatic and very sincere, kind of it's a lovely sound out the speakers, very string laden and sweet. It's a beautiful thing. All right, we've got one more record to go before we get to the quiz question, and this is another jazz record, but this one has an amazing history. So this is Dizzy Atmosphere by Wynton Kelly and Lee Morgan. Now, at this point, all of the musicians, I think all, I'm not sure with Lee Morgan, I'm going to check, but all played in Dizzy Gillespie's band. Well, they went into the studio, so you have, let's have a look here. One of the most scintillating evenings I have ever spent listening to jazz was in the dizzy atmosphere of the large jazz band of Dizzy John Gillespie early in 1957 at a dance club in Oakland, California. So you have this kind of deriving from big band, and you hear a little bit of that, but of course this is much more hard bop than big band, because there's 5 of the guys, and so what you get is this super speedy hard bop, driving rhythms. Al Gray on trombone, Billy Mitchell on tenor sax, Charlie Persip on drums. I hear his name quite a lot now in some of the records we get. In fact, there were 6 because there's a picture here. And then Wynton Kelly on piano, who's obviously wonderful. But the star has to be the 18-year-old Lee Morgan. Man, it's phenomenal how amazing he plays. And the star track on this record is the opening track, Dishwater. On Spotify, you can find this record, and there are multiple versions of Dishwater in particular. But the best is the one on the original, the take that they chose. Some of the others are a little bit loosey-goosey for me, but it's wonderful. All right, so I wonder if anyone guessed who it would be. I'm just going to show you the label, because even though in these records were released on High Records, the Japanese pressings were released on London, so there must have been some overlap. I'm just going to show you this sleeve. Produced by Willie Mitchell, Japanese first press, and it is Back for a Taste of Your Love by Syl Johnson. What an album. I mean, debut album. I think, as I said, it's a smidgen, in my estimation, away from Call Me by Al Green, which is, in some lists, the greatest soul album of all time. I love this album. It's so good. A little bit more, well, I was about to say a little bit more frisky than Al Green, and there's a song on here called Feeling Frisky, which doesn't really lend itself to Al Green. But the song that I am always waiting for is track 9, which is the 4th track on side 2, and it's called I Hate I Walked Away, and it is a sublime ballad. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. Yeah, a very interesting counterpoint to Al Green's wonderful Call Me. There you have it, 12 records that will appear on the Soul, Jazz, Blues and Funk and show tune, I guess for Marilyn I'm going to have to say show tunes list. They'll go out 9 p.m. Sydney, Western Australia time. If you want to be on the list, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the video.